I am the contrarian, and this is my world.
Hi, I'm Rajat Agarwal from BGR India, and today on The Contrarian, we'll be talking about security concerns related to Chinese smartphones. My stand is it's not just about one smartphone brand or one country, but every smartphone out there is susceptible to security risks, and it is up to the user or the organization to protect their smartphones.
All right, I want you to do one thing right now. In the middle of this conversation, we are starting off with this show. And one quick thing that I want you to take out your phone, think of every single very sensitive data document and maybe even a very sensitive picture. And then think that all of that data was sent to a country right next to us, or maybe countries far away. Slightly frightening, a bit scary. Are you kind of shuddering in your boots? Well, some people here in this country think it's happening on every single day, and Rajat's going to take us through what is this whole thing. So IAF actually releases a statement telling their own personnel not to buy a phone of one particular brand.
Right.
Why?
So there was this report that came out that this particular brand, as soon as you insert your SIM card into it, turn it on, it starts sending your data. That includes your phone number, your location, and anything else. If you have a phone book in your phone, which all of us do have, all the phone book entries go there, all your messages go there. Every photograph that you click goes through their servers.
So what you're saying is, I mean, we're talking about obviously the company Xiaomi, and there's no secret out here. So what you're saying sounds more like that's what would happen if the default setting for cloud backup on a phone was on instead of you going there and putting it.
Right.
Is that it, or is there more? I mean, why is this being blown so out of proportion? Because what you're describing to everybody out there is iCloud, Dropbox, Drive, Google. This is pretty much what they do, except that I have to go there and select.
Yeah.
And this by default was on.
This by default was on, and the company rectified that as well. So Xiaomi actually came up with an update where they realized that this can be a fear, and this wasn't a fear in China, which was their only major market, that this can be a fear, that people think that it's a security hassle. And this was about Xiaomi's own Mi Cloud services, wherein they provide a lot of add-ons. But having said that, the bigger picture out here is it's not just these services. It can be applications that you download, right? So there was this particular report wherein, and this is a very recent report from a couple of days back, a research agency actually tested out flashlight apps. You know, all of us use flashlight apps on our phones. And the kind of permissions that typically a flashlight app should have should be minimal, you know. The problem over here is consumers don't know what access they are giving away when they're downloading applications. So
this is true. We did another show about hacking and how easy it is for you to download an app even from an official area and not know what permissions you're giving.
Absolutely.
Even though all the permissions are very clearly stated out there, but who reads it?
Who reads it?
There was a study that was done, and this is really, really important for all of you out there also. Study that was done that 85 or 90% of people do not spend more than 1 second to skim through, and some do not do it at all, and just say agree and boom. What's happening is that what you're saying is making a lot of sense, but what you're not giving me is what's the solution. And I want a solution to what you're saying right now, and then we move on to, like you said, the bigger picture, because there's so many other implications.
Absolutely.
History has a lot more to do with this whole China syndrome of that scare, this fear-mongering that is actually maybe competition doing it. So first, let me just understand. A lot of people come in here and say, man, people are so foolish, they don't read the permission of the apps. And then you give me another one of flashlight. Then there's a third, then there's two things with cloud, then there's freemium, then there's adware. And put it all together. If I want a flashlight app and it says, I will want these three things from you, what do I do? There's no such thing as going there and saying yes or no.
Absolutely.
To that one.
Absolutely.
That in itself is, I think, a greater problem for
Absolutely.
me, right?
Absolutely.
An app should say yes or no. And then if I say no, it'll say these are the things that won't work on this app. It should give me the option.
Absolutely. Eventually, for any application, to give me a login, all it should have is my email address. Nothing more than that. It should not have access to anything
really.
else. My contacts.
And there are so many apps that when they take permission from a Facebook login, start then, I mean, you may be playing a game and you've done terribly at it and it'll post that I did so badly.
Absolutely.
And then you're suddenly shocked as to why is it there, and then you just forget it and move on, and those posts are just going there.
And it's not just about those posts. You know, what we should be concerned about, like most regular users would think that, you know, what happens if someone knows where I am, right? Or what happens if someone even gets to know like who I am friends with, who are my contacts, right? But the bigger picture over
so
here.
Rajat, I'm just, the two things that you've said, okay, this applies only to certain people. So certain people would be concerned that nobody should know where they are, but more importantly, certain people will know where they are not. Okay, that would apply to you.
Absolutely, I knew that was coming, but
somehow you don't. I mean,
but here's the thing. The thing over here is that, you know, you start accessing this data. Individuals think that this does not matter, but think about this. The kind of social graph that these guys can have, right? And it's everything sort of matches, you know, in terms of, for instance, if you're logging onto Facebook from another country, right? Facebook makes you go through a process, right?
Pretty much a ritual, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to get it all right for you to get access to your own account, which is great.
Yeah, which is great. And this is the kind of data that can be accessed by someone.
Sometimes the simplest of things that we don't think about. For instance, when you call in to the call service center for your credit card,
Absolutely.
How do they identify you? They say, tell us your date of birth.
birth.
The number of apps that ask you for your date of birth, and all of you are so happy to give it away. You never see a star out there which says it's not necessary that you actually fill it. You don't need to. It's one of the biggest ways of identifying you. And I should actually even tell credit card companies that's really not enough.
Right.
You've got to have a second level to it. But date of birth and boom, yes, what can I tell you? And they'll give you all the information you require about yourself. It's that important, but we don't care about it. But Raja, let's come back to this. It's not just about one company, Xiaomi, or the fear mongering that is coming about it. And it does seem very strange that this directive by the IAF was given before, at least that's what the claim is now, that it was given before Xiaomi even entered the country. So I find this really, really strange. I mean, why did it happen? Why would they do it at that time? So pretty much a lot of questions out there. But even more important than that is this fear-mongering has been there for a long time about Chinese phones. First, no IMEI, so dangerous.
Absolutely.
Then all Chinese phones will always send out data, and it goes to the Chinese ISI kind of companies, organizations that they talk about. Then there was this other thing, and I'd like you to answer all these three things is, certain companies are not just mobile phone manufacturers. There are Chinese companies, very efficient companies that have a great amount of competition in the market to set up networks in entire countries. So we're not talking about a $200-300 phone. We're talking about billion-dollar contracts. And a lot of countries were told, and they banned them, saying, we won't take it from this network service provider to set up our networks because they relay information back to China. I find this all a little ridiculous. I mean, is it really the way it goes? And is this the only way to get personal data of people? Aren't there better ways?
So when it comes to networks, it's not just about personal data of people, right? They're setting up your entire infrastructure. So what if there are backdoors, right, that you can't detect during your usual testing?
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So if you're Mr. China and you set up networks, and I am Mr. Europe and I set up networks, it would be great business for me to say, don't trust the Chinese because they're doing this, and you'll get, I mean, all your contracts are yours then. I mean, you're going to lose everything, I'll get them all, right? And keep upgrading this rumor every year, and then just let it simmer. With no proof.
There is no proof about these things, right? So, and that is one of the another reasons why.
So what's your gut? Would the Chinese be having kill switches everywhere, looking at some of the history?
You know, I'm not sure about kill switches, but as we have seen over the past couple of years, the kind of revelations that have come out, every country wants data. You know, it does not matter what you do with that data, but you know.
Eventually, it's a gold mine at some time. So what's happening right now? Is there a serious problem with privacy and security per se?
So there certainly is, right? Especially with smartphones and the kind of access we give, right? We all love free applications, right? We don't think about what kind of data, what kind of information are they seeking from me?
So is there an OS on smartphones that is actually better?
I would say it all depends on how you implement policies on any smartphone. So even an operating system as open
Okay,
as
let's get down
Android-
to this, I think, because we're running out of
Yeah.
time, and this is the most important word
Right,
you've used
right.
right now is policies and procedures.
Absolutely.
This whole thing to do with government agencies and IAF coming up with a random thing with one brand is, frankly speaking, very, very strange, right? But if you just take it forward, isn't the onus on them?
I'm saying that, you know what, even enterprises, a small corporate enterprise, a small setup also, these days, if they're doing something which is unique and they have a lot of IP, they have policies in place.
Yeah, policies and
wherein-
procedures that are very stringent. I mean,
Absolutely. You know, there can be policies on, these are the only approved devices and these are the only applications that we will tell you that you can download from our own version of the App Store. Even iOS allows that for enterprises to have only their apps that the IT department would push down
So
to
you're saying
devices.
small to medium corporates, forget large, who
Right.
have an even better.
Right.
Small to medium corporates can do it. How come government agencies aren't doing
Absolutely.
it?
The thing is, it's not about what brand you should buy, right? What operating system you should buy. All of these are futile attempts till the time you're not controlling what the user is doing on these phones.
So the iPhone that you use is made where?
It's assembled in China.
Assembled in China. So you think Apple also has backdoor openings where they're transmitting data to this thing, and one government agency may say, और भी कोई phone खरीदो लेकिन Apple का phone मत खरीदना, assembled in China. Could happen, right?
Could happen.
Yeah.
It's the same hardware.
Isn't it amazing? The world of technology, just amazing. Thank you, Rajat, as
right.
always. Wonderful having you here. So here's really where we all boil down to. Almost every phone that you might be using or will use in the future will have something to do with one particular country or the other. And just going with the fact that there's a rumor, there's this rumor mongering and everything else that's happening may not be the real reason for you to panic. Panic because you're not aware of your own security and privacy. And next time you download a clone of Flappy Bird, think all those nude pictures that you've taken of yourself are getting transmitted somewhere. I'll see you next week on The Contrary. Thanks again, Rajat.
Cheers, Roger.
I am the contrarian, and this is my world.